Hello everyone, my name is Priya and welcome to today's episode on the Podlight podcast. As you all know, this is the very first episode, and as I introduced myself earlier on the intro, my name is Priya, also known as Diary of a Canadian Mom. I'm a Nigerian living in Canada with my family. I'm very curious about the world at large. Now, today's episode, our topic will be life post-COVID-19. And really, this is a source of concern for many people. I've spoken to so many parents. I'm like, hey, why don't I just throw it out there and let's know each other's thoughts? For me, I've been worried for the past few years about, this particular shift. I don't know if it's a cosmic shift, but it's happening and the world has pretty much changed. Now, life after COVID-19 has been filled with different possibilities and challenges. As we emerge from the pandemic, we find ourselves in a transformed world, and our collective experiences have both differed and been similar at the same time. Here are a few key aspects to consider. First and foremost, our health and well-being. I think now there's this higher consciousness amongst most people about their health and general well-being, being that for the first time, we've seen young people not take their health for granted, both with dieting, taking care of their bodies and being hygienic. The sense of personal hygiene has been boosted, Really, the importance of our physical and mental well-being, greater focus on preventive health care, mental health support, I believe, has also been on the record rise, unlike before. And there's this resilience that we've all built since COVID-19, would I say, ended, or we've transitioned into this, safe space where there's either some type of herd immunity that has been built, or for some reason, till now, I don't even know if we panicked beyond what it was or not. But in order not to throw that controversial topic out there, let's focus on the key points today. Another aspect I feel has evolved since COVID-19 is our work, our ways of working, and the economy as a whole. So the pandemic has reshaped our work ethics, the dynamics around work, and how we perceive work. It has also kind of changed or caused this shift in how the economy is run. Let me give you an example now. There's this organizational, like across all organizations, there's this organizational awareness that remote work is either more beneficially applicable for organizations that need people to continue working hands-on, and then economically you tell yourself, or financially as a business owner, is it necessary to have an office space? No, it's not. So the financial implications have been both positive and negative. Positive in the sense that, okay, now companies now know that they can function better, and there's this acceleration of the adoption of technology across the board. But then negatively, we miss where we walk into the office and we interact face to face. I think since COVID-19, I've met so many people virtually that I have wondered what it would be like to have like a face-to-face relationship or interaction with, should we get a chance. I work with people in different geographic zones in the world, different parts of the world, different continents, and sometimes I've had interesting conversations with those people, and I feel like, okay, it would have been much better if somehow our entire working relationship wasn't dependent on the virtual space, and we could just, sometimes over a tea or a coffee, when you create that, environment to make the relationship less official, and there's this flow in communication, I noticed that with COVID-19, there's also communication issues at work, meaning you might say one thing through an email or during a virtual meeting, and just because your body language or your facial expressions are not seen, it might be interpreted in another way. As little as your tone can throw you off. So it's now such a sensitive environment, and this is just me picking on different issues post-COVID. Post-COVID, there have been greater focus on, you know, blending the remote work model with on-site work model. Okay, companies are beginning to say, hey, do we adopt the hybrid work model? So there's this flexibility that makes it possible for the workers not to feel under pressure, but at the same time creating that standard where you always have to come into office, and everyone is still just trying to juggle it all. You have the economy undergoing various shifts. You know, some industries, like now we have emerging industries. We've seen the emergence of AI, and that is a topic I promised you we're going to table another day, because the emergence of artificial intelligence has escalated, and now our ways of working, our thought processes, our productivity, everything has greatly improved. So things like AI being, you know, adopted across the board with businesses, at the workplace, even with healthcare, you know. And what we've not been able to decipher is if this shift in the economy is for the better or for the worse, because we're seeing widening gaps in the economy between the rich and the poor and the average. The cost of living has skyrocketed. Now, we do not know if it's as a result of post-COVID, you know, economic hardship, or we blame it on the three wars that have emerged post-COVID, talking about the war with Ukraine and Russia, and the war in Afghanistan, and then the war, you know, currently ongoing with Israel and Hamas. These things have economic implications, and, you know, especially with countries that are either reliant on these countries, or somehow there are diplomatic, strong diplomatic ties between these countries. Definitely their allies, and even those who aren't allies but simply just doing business with them, have been greatly affected. And we don't know if, again, to blame it on COVID or these very turbulent wars that are ongoing, but it's still a confusing place. Like I said, in my conversation with many people, it's always been about, okay, so what do we do from here? Because during COVID and post-COVID, many of us have had to question our skill set, you know, things we can do, can we evolve? The deep question, and I think that's a positive from COVID, because then everyone now sits to think, okay, this world is changing right before my very eyes. I need to have deeper conversations with myself and work on myself internally. So that's an offshoot also from COVID-19. Many people are more self-aware. Many people care more about the environment. Many people care more about, you know, their health and all, you know. Then our social interactions too, and travel. So during the pandemic, physical distancing measures affected our social lives. And I'm not going to lie, it was really hard, especially not seeing your friends or being able to just, you know, plan and get together impromptu. Those things used to be things I'll do spontaneously. But going forward after COVID, for some reason, it doesn't just happen spontaneously again. Everyone, like I said, is more self-aware, self-conscious, you know, health-conscious. And the resurgence of social gatherings is gradually happening. Events are happening. Travel restrictions have been lifted, but then not in a way it was pre-COVID. So travel restrictions have been lifted, but there's still this awareness, there's still this consciousness. Anytime I go through an airport, it's like, okay, I hope I'm not doing anything wrong. I can't just mistakenly touch the rail without thinking, you know, I just picked up some germs. And it's not like prior to COVID, we weren't conscious of those things, but I guess now you're much more self-conscious because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you have to deal with that, right? Global cooperation. So the pandemic has demonstrated the significance of global cooperation and improvements in diplomatic relations across the board for some countries. And for some countries that escalated conflict. Like I mentioned earlier, the conflicts among countries that have been happening and ongoing, and my condolences to those families who are affected. I pray somehow we can find a resolve and, you know, get our world back to the way it was, where every citizen is free to live wherever they want to live and not being judged by their religion or ancestry. You know, just get back to now. There will never be a time in the world where all the countries in the world will be allies, but at least we can learn to respect each other and cohabit, because no matter what you do, no matter what one government does to the other and vice versa, we're all kind of stuck in this world and we're just gonna have to deal with it. That's how I see it. And this is not me trying to sound like these issues are not of great magnitude, but I'm just trying to point out that somehow we just have to find a resolve, because we can't continue like this. Now, the global cooperation have been strengthened, like I mentioned, for some countries, and then some countries, it has escalated, you know, conflict. And we're witnessing increased collaboration, you know, between citizens of various countries, even if the governments of those countries do not agree. Let me give an instance now. I'm Nigerian, and one of our neighboring countries had a coup d'etat that led to the emergence of a military regime, fully supported by the citizens of the country, because they were kind of tired of the democratic regime and, you know, all the corruption that came with it, the elections and stuff like that. And the citizens backed this coup. I don't know about the current state of the nation now, but as of some months ago, that was the story. Now, my country wanted to enforce that they go back to a democratic regime, but the citizens didn't back it up. And now the citizens of Nigeria were saying to the government that, no, why don't we mind our business? Even if we're all ECOWAS member states, why don't we mind our business, since the citizens do not mind? But then there was the argument that if we allow that to happen, then it will spiral, and, you know, there will be a wave of coups throughout West Africa, which I'm not sure that will happen, but well, that's what most people thought. Some people thought, rather, not most. There was this ongoing argument about who's right and who's wrong, but then the citizens won it, so you can now go ahead and force them to remain with a government that they do not want, that got into power illegally against the will of the people, you know. So this has been the case. Politically, the political atmosphere after COVID has been very, very intense across the world. From even the Western countries that are usually presumably stable, the political climate is very intense. We have all levels of government, conflict and all levels of government, and us just trying to resolve. People are more assertive now. Lawmakers are more assertive. Lawmakers are going back, except for my home country, Nigeria. We're not going to talk about the lawmakers. I strongly believe the lawmakers, we need a whole episode to address what they're doing in Nigeria. Now, remember, life after COVID, right? We've all admitted to, we can all admit rather, and mostly have admitted to the fact that nobody really knows tomorrow. The world is not predictable. It's not predictable in any way, no matter how many trends or insights or how much data we have to back up whatever we think we know. The world can shift in any direction, and I believe that's the biggest takeaway for most people post-COVID. Now, from my own point of view, apart from these facts that I've put out there, and I just pretty much summarized them, I didn't want to go deeper because I feel like we kind of already all know what is ongoing, you know, even with the vaccines, you know, the controversies around the vaccines. Everyone has questions. Everyone has a certain level of confusion alongside increased self-awareness. But I want to point out something. What are you doing at least about your mental health? And this is me speaking also as a mental health advocate. What are you doing about your mental health? With all these pressures, you're going through a lot. There's record high inflation. You're going through a lot with, you know, your personal life, your finances, and then you also have to deal with, you know, the intensity of the happenings around the world. You put on your phone, the first thing you see are disturbing images from different countries that are involved, you know, in conflict at the moment. And then sometimes you shed a tear. You don't know what the world is, you know, turning into. And then for me as a mother, with the kids I'm raising, that's my biggest concern. And that's why I have decided that in any way I can, I will make a difference, no matter how little or how hard. I will live every day working towards making a difference for the world around me, because at the end of the day, we can't just all complain all the time. We also have to be intentional about improving our lives and even our communities as well. There are some communities that don't know what to do, and they just need someone who's conscious enough to bring their best foot forward and lead and say, hey, this is what we can do to make our environment or our community better. This is what we can do to improve on our current, you know, ways of living. And this is what we can do to come together and collaborate and support each other. Our mental health matters, and our physical health matters also as much. And as most importantly, don't forget to be kind. Don't forget to be intentional, and always do your best to be your best, to do your best. I don't know if that makes sense, but I say it sometimes because I feel like we're all struggling one way or the other, and we have to deal with like the consequences of even decisions we have no business with. And that has to do with, you know, countries warring with each other, and then you're thousands of miles away from a country like Ukraine, but the price of wheat has skyrocketed, for instance, simply because of instability that way. I would also like to encourage everyone watching this podcast to please don't forget your loved ones. Check on them. Life is turbulent, life is busy, I know, but always check on them, because you can never know if your call will bring them out of, you know, a deep hole, you know, of thoughts and worry and whatever. Lead in any way you can, no matter how small your community is. If you're listening to this podcast and you're located even in a small village, just do what you can to bring everyone together and pull everyone out of their current state of mind. Because I feel like with this shift, there are also people who are either gone into depression or anxiety, excessive anxiety. I've seen people with very intense panic attacks simply because of the uncertainty. Some of us don't mind the uncertainty, and some people do not fare well with uncertainty. So we just have to support each other one way or the other. Thank you for joining my podcast once again, and do have yourself a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and watch out for the next episode on the Podlight podcast. Bye.